Pocahontas was never free, the dark truth behind her Disney story. The river remembers. You grew up believing she was a symbol of peace, a girl who talked to trees, danced with the wind, and bridged two worlds with love and understanding. A Disney princess unlike any other, strong, wise, connected to nature. A voice of reason in a time of violence. But what if that wasn't her story at all? What if Pocahontas wasn't a tale of unity, but of silence? What if it was never about peace, but about erasure? The more you look at her world, the more it begins to rot beneath the surface. The forest is too quiet. Grandmother Willow doesn't comfort, she warns. And the river she sings to, it doesn't just carry dreams, it carries memory, blood, echoes. She doesn't belong in the Disney lineup because her story isn't a fairy tale. It's a ghost story, a tragic rewriting of something that was never meant to be animated. Because Pocahontas didn't fall in love. She was taken. She didn't change the course of history. She was buried beneath it. This isn't a story about colors of the wind. It's about voices lost in the storm. And when you realize what the real river was trying to say, you'll understand that Pocahontas wasn't a bridge between worlds. She was the warning, and we didn't listen. The story we were shown. In Disney's version, Pocahontas is a free spirit, wild-hearted, wise beyond her years, and deeply connected to nature. She runs through the forest with the wind in her hair, dives off cliffs with effortless grace, and speaks to trees that whisper secrets from the past. Her people, the Powhatan tribe, live in harmony with the land. And when the English settlers arrive, bringing greed and fear, it's Pocahontas who stands between them and war. She meets John Smith, teaches him her ways, and through a whirlwind romance, convinces both sides to choose peace over violence. She's brave, compassionate, curious. Her most iconic moment? Singing Colors of the Wind, a powerful message about understanding, equality, and seeing beyond the surface. In the end, she helps prevent bloodshed, softens the hearts of the colonizers, and earns a place among Disney's most respected heroines. It's a story of unity, of bridging cultures, of nature triumphing over conquest. But look a little closer, and things begin to unravel. Why is John Smith so easily redeemed? Why does Pocahontas risk everything for someone she's known for mere days? And why does the film fade to a hopeful sunset when the history it touches is soaked in genocide? Disney gave us a love story, but it started with a ship on the horizon and ended with silence. And Pocahontas? She never got a happily ever after. She got rewritten. The first unsettling detail. Let's go back to her first meeting with John Smith. It's treated like a romantic revelation, two strangers from different worlds, finding common ground under the trees. But something about it feels off. Pocahontas sees him from a distance. He points a loaded musket at her. She runs. He chases her. And when he corners her, he doesn't lower his weapon. Not until she speaks. Her first words in English are played like magic. But what they really do is disarm him, literally. She makes herself smaller, harmless, understandable. From the beginning, her power lies not in resistance, but in softening danger. And John? He isn't just a curious traveler. He's an armed invader on stolen land. He says things like, "Savages are just people without civilization." And when Pocahontas challenges him, he doesn't apologize. He marvels at her. Like she's not real, like she's an exotic symbol of nature, there to awaken his humanity. Their connection is fast, almost unrealistically so. And while Disney frames this as fated love, it feels more like the beginning of erasure. She teaches him, changes him. But what does he give her in return? A fleeting romance, an exit wound. And the story implies that this sacrifice of self, this emotional labor, is her purpose. That Pocahontas' entire identity can be boiled down to making John Smith less violent. The forest sings, the river whines, The colors swirl. But beneath the beauty, there's a darker truth. Pocahontas isn't falling in love. She's falling into a myth, one that strips her of power and calls it peace. And the question we should ask isn't, did she love him? It's, why was she made to save him? The hidden lore. The Disney version of Pocahontas is built on soft colors, singing willows, and a sanitized vision of history. But her name, her story, and her roots tell a different tale. Historically, Pocahontas was not a princess. She was the daughter of Chief Powhatan, yes, but in Powhatan culture, that did not make her royalty. It made her a political bridge. And her real name? Not Pocahontas. That was a nickname, a teasing one. Her actual name was Matawaka, and in her time, names held power. True names were sacred, private, often hidden from outsiders. The fact that Pocahontas is the name we remember isn't just inaccurate, it's an erasure. Now look at the real history. In 1607, Pocahontas was about 10 or 11 years old. John Smith was nearly 30. Their romance is fiction, a colonial fantasy invented by Smith himself, who wrote several contradictory versions of his rescue by Pocahontas. In early records, he didn't even mention her. The later version, where she saves him from execution, was written years after the fact, long after she had died. Why? Because by then, her story had become useful. Pocahontas became the symbol of the noble savage, a native woman who didn't fight back but assimilated, a bridge between worlds who chose the settlers over her people. It made colonization seem noble, merciful, predestined. It's important to understand this. In many native traditions, the land isn't just scenery. It's alive. It listens. It remembers. Disney taps into this with Grandmother Willow and Talking Rivers, but turns them into background characters. The real spirits of the land, they weren't quirky sidekicks. They were warnings. In Algonquin and Powhatan mythology, nature spirits were powerful and sacred, but when angered, they became protectors, guardians, vengeful if necessary. To ignore the land was to invite destruction. But in Disney's version, the land sings, forgives, and bends, even when it's being stolen. This is not a tale of harmony. It's a tale of rewritten myth, of turning guardians into guides, of turning a child into a love interest, and of turning a story of resistance into a story of surrender. Because when you strip away the music and watercolor skies, you're left with something far more haunting. A girl renamed, a history rewritten, and a legacy twisted to justify the very thing her people tried to stop. The psychological breakdown. Pocahontas doesn't just face a choice between two worlds. She's torn apart by them. Disney paints her as wise beyond her years, calm, centered, always connected to nature. But watch more closely, and you'll see something else. A girl under immense pressure, forced to carry the weight of an entire world. She's barely more than a teenager. And yet, everyone looks to her. The village expects her to marry for duty. The spirits expect her to listen. The settlers expect her to bridge the impossible. She doesn't get to grow, she has to perform. To become a symbol, not a person. There's a constant duality in her voice, her movements, her eyes, like she's being pulled in two directions at once. Her freedom becomes performance. Her peace becomes expectation. Her choices aren't really choices at all. They're necessities wrapped in ribbons. She speaks softly, moves gracefully, but carries trauma in silence. And what about John Smith? To Disney, he's her love interest. To her, he's the embodiment of collapse, of everything alien and terrifying that's forcing its way into her home. And yet she softens to him, tries to understand, tries to make it work. That isn't love. That's survival. She internalizes the conflict, tries to be the peace between the blade and the earth it's piercing. And when the climax comes, she stands between her people and the invaders, offering her life to stop a war she never started. That's not empowerment. That's sacrifice. She gives everything, her identity, her beliefs, her safety. And in the end, the film calls her brave. But bravery doesn't mean freedom. Pocahontas doesn't win. She absorbs. She takes the pain of both worlds and buries it beneath a forced smile. And when she watches John Smith sail away, it's not tragic romance. It's the moment she realizes, no matter what she gave, nothing changed. Because peace bought through silence isn't peace at all. It's surrender with a prettier name. Symbolism in her transformation. Pocahontas doesn't get a magical transformation scene like Elsa's gown or Ariel's legs, but her metamorphosis is just as profound and far more haunting. It begins with movement, her hair in the wind, her body in stillness, her silent steps toward danger. Pocahontas becomes a symbol of calm, but it's not peace. It's restraint. Every moment of passion is tempered, every instinct buried. She becomes the still water trying to quiet the storm. And her voice? It's soft, melodic, ethereal, but always careful. Even her most iconic song, Colors of the Wind, sounds like rebellion dressed as poetry. She sings about understanding, but beneath the lyrics lies a desperate plea. See me, hear me, stop this before it's too late. Yet no one truly listens. She wears natural colors, browns, earth tones, simple shapes. But these aren't just cultural markers. They're visual cues of her tether to the land. She is the land. And as colonization looms, she becomes more spirit than girl, silent, graceful, fading. By the end of the film, she's no longer Matoaka. She's Pocahontas, the name outsiders gave her, the identity they could market, the legend they could sculpt. Her transformation isn't magical, it's erasure. Even her decision to stay when John Smith sails away is framed as maturity, as wisdom. But look closer. She stands alone on the cliff, high above the water, framed by distance and silence. It's a painting of isolation. The land holds her like a cage. She doesn't become herself. She becomes who they need her to be. The protector, the peacemaker, the quiet symbol of harmony. But symbols don't speak, they're displayed. And in becoming a bridge between two worlds, Pocahontas loses the ground beneath her own feet. Because transformation isn't always about power. Sometimes it's about loss. The ending we misunderstood. The final scene of Pocahontas is often remembered as powerful. Her standing tall on the cliffside, wind in her hair, watching John Smith sail away into the mist. It's framed as a noble choice, a sacrifice, proof that she stayed for her people. But look deeper. She doesn't smile, she doesn't wave, she doesn't move. She watches, and in that stillness is a sorrow so deep it nearly disappears into the background score. It's not closure, it's abandonment. She chooses the land not because it was an empowered decision, but because it was the only option left that hadn't been taken from her. The story wants you to believe she won, that by choosing peace, she preserved something greater. But peace came at the cost of her identity. Her love is gone. Her world is changing. Her voice, once full of spirit, is now silenced by history. Disney ends her story on the edge of that cliff, but in real life, Pocahontas' ending was far more tragic. She was taken across the ocean, paraded as proof of colonization's success, and died far from home, just a teenager. The film doesn't show that part, because the fairy tale can't survive it. Instead, they leave us with an illusion of choice, of strength in stillness. But what if the ending isn't about bravery? What if it's about erasure? What if she's not standing tall, but fading, not victorious, but vanishing? Pocahontas doesn't ride into a future. She's left behind, like a story misremembered. And the wind that carries her hair? It sounds a lot like silence. The final truth. Pocahontas was never just a princess. She was a prophecy, a warning wrapped in color and song. A symbol rewritten so many times, the truth barely flickers beneath the paint. She wasn't a love story. She wasn't a peacemaker. She was a girl whose voice was taken, whose history was softened, whose ending was rewritten to make us feel better. But listen closely. Beneath the waves, through the trees, in the wind that Disney tried to romanticize, there's another version of the story. And it doesn't end with a kiss. It ends with a name forgotten, a life lost, a legacy blurred. The next time you hear Colors of the Wind, ask yourself, whose voice are you really hearing? And what was buried to make it sing? Thank you for walking with us through the shadows of Pocahontas' forgotten truth. If this changed the way you see her story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us uncover more secrets hidden beneath the fairy tales. And tell us, which Disney legend should we unravel next? Until then, be careful which stories you believe, because behind every fairy tale, there's a truth waiting to escape.